This is the story of the Baja 1000, the desert off-road race run the length of the Baja California Peninsula. A few months before the 1969 rally was slated to start, SAAB decided to enter. A Baja car was prepared for old-time rally champion Erik Carlsson and his co-driver Torsten Aman. A new SAAB was taken off the SAAB assembly line in Trollhättan, Sweden. The car's suspension was reinforced, and the motor was tuned to develop over 105 horsepower, and many modifications had to be made. The tracks, gullies, and dry riverbeds that make up the course of the Baja 1000 would put any regular stone quarry or sand pit to shame. The rally is something for only the very toughest, both drivers and cars. A few weeks before the start, Torsten Aman and mechanic Bernd Mellon got their first look at the location. Had they been right? Was it even tougher than the competition planners back in Sweden had thought? Or could they make it? To get the correct answers, Torsten and Bernd practice drove the entire course, 833 miles of blinding deserts, among cactus, rock, and sand, on dried-out riverbeds where razor-sharp rocks can easily cut a tire to shreds. The whole peninsula is almost devoid of population. Here and there are a few ranches where car service is a prime source of livelihood. Business is booming, too, because through the Baja Desert runs a steady stream of cars stolen in the United States and transported south through the desert. Real roads exist in only a few places, at the beginning and the end. In between, there are only tracks. The trail leads up and down through endless canyons and past poisonous giant cactus. Simply by missing a turn in this country, a driver can get lost for good. Before the rally, Erik Carlsson arrived at the starting place in Ensenada. He too wanted to know exactly what was awaiting him and decided to practice drive the entire course. At El Arco, mechanic Mellon was awaiting him for a quick check while the gas tank was topped off. No rush for Mellon. The gas pumps in Baja are never in a hurry. They've been there for a long time. The actual rally car was waiting at the SAAB headquarters in Los Angeles. It got its final checkout for the start and was inspected thoroughly by a somewhat incredulous press corps. It was hard to imagine that the tiny SAAB would be able to compete with the giant desert monsters with 3, 4, even 500 horsepower. Only a few hours remained before the start. At Ensenada, 259 vehicles ready for the run, one more fantastic than another. In the Baja 1000, almost anything is allowed, from motorcycles to pickup trucks. The majority, however, are dune buggies, a type of vehicle especially built for desert driving and increasingly popular in many parts of the country. But there are standard cars, too. The monster prize, though, must go to this one. A great favorite was a rather short young man with a large mustache and a special vehicle that had cost him nearly $100,000. Hollywood's Steve McQueen. He drove the Baja Boot, good for 150 miles an hour on the desert roads. The large man in the tiny crash helmet is Erik Carlsson, ready to start his first rally since 1967, and he's looking forward to it. A Baja Special with a Volvo engine. Gunnar Nilsson's big Husqvarna motorcycle. How's this for starting flag manipulation? The second car in the SAAB team is driven by Swedish-American Ingvar Lindquist, a California SAAB dealer. He's a desert veteran, having competed in every race since the first Baja 1000 and won his class the previous year. The first stretch out of Ensenada is deceptively simple. Soon the trouble will start. After some 240 miles, the drivers reach checkpoint El Rosario. Many of them don't even see the stop. Their eyes are too inflamed by the flying sand. But they fight on. One of the big sensations in the rally was Sweden's Gunnar Nilsson, who won the big motorcycle class despite 3 serious errors just before the start. In hurrying to get off as soon as possible, he started without water flask, map, and compass. Personally, though, he thought the worst experience was when his bike ran through the middle of a snake pit. A series of desert hybrids raced through the dust outside San Fernando. It's a mixed bag. Lots of dune buggies with Volkswagen engines, but with many others mixed in, such as the tiny new Citroen Desert model. The truck is a Ford pickup driven by favorites Ray Brock and Ack Miller. A Volkswagen with a Chevy V8 engine, 350 horsepower and earth mover tires. The fellows in the squared-off Bronco are among the top favorites in the race. Time for gas. Erik Carlsson makes a quick stop at SAAB's service point just outside the Santa Ynez checkpoint. That white belt around the middle is Erik's handmade kidney belt. 2 ladies' corsets sewn together. Mechanic Mellon has discovered a generator problem and orders a change. Another one was in the service airplane at Santa Ynez. A short, adventurous ride and 10 minutes work, and the Swedish car is on its way again. At this stage, Erik Carlsson is leading the race. The field gradually thins out as the desert, the rocks, and just sheer exhaustion take their toll. Only the real Baja favorites are still in the running. A Bandito races into the depot but gives up a short time later when the gearbox cracks from a rock collision. Ingvar Lindquist is close on the heels of Steve McQueen, even though he started a whole hour after the film started. Bandito continues after repairs and a dinner pause. 600 miles still remain to the finish line in La Paz. That's not smoke down below, it's dust from the fast-moving cars. This is probably the only race in the world where the spectators need airplanes to see their favorites on the course. Only a few miles still remain. Ingvar Lindquist has taken the lead and forces the utmost from his SAAB on the final run into La Paz. The finish, finally. After 25 hours and 50 minutes, co-driver Sven Sundquist pulls off the crash helmet. He's completely covered with the desert dust. The eyes are inflamed and every bone in the body aches. But at this stage, does it really matter? When you've won your class in the world's toughest rally, Ingvar Lindquist receives the prize for the two-wheel drive production car class. And Erik-Torsten steps up to take this third-place trophy. Seconded nicely by Hollywood movie star Jim Garner, who took second in the class in an Oldsmobile Cutlass.